Hey everyone, so I had to take a break on the John Deere A right now because this big thing here, we had a pretty bad breakdown the other day. I would say it's kind of my fault. Um, we'll talk about why it deals with the um, input shaft and drive shaft going in from the engine to the transmission. Long story short, it came apart and just whipped around and tangled up all kinds of hydraulic lines and electrical lines and everything. So it's an absolute mess. So I'm going to be working on this for a little bit while I also get parts and things for my eggs. This is going to be involved enough that I'm just going to make videos of it anyway, even though I know it's not my probably normal viewership or subscriber base. So I think this is reaching a little outside of my comfort zone, but we can't really find anyone else to work on this right now, without taking it to the John Deere dealer. So yeah, we'll get onto there. I'll show you guys kind of all what happened, and my goal today is to start taking this apart. So here we go. Okay, so you can see the front of the tractor here, just for reference, and we've got our drive shaft. I apologize for the lighting. I can't find my little light right now. And so what you're looking at is that there is the engine flywheel. There is a U-joint, then this green shaft, and then another U-joint. Then that, let's see if I move here, attaches to this input shaft here. I replaced that input shaft about 6 months ago because they wear from the chatter of the engine, and that shaft that gets worn. And I replaced it because whenever that gets worn and breaks, then it does exactly what happened here. But what happened here was I know I used the same bolts and I didn't put Loctite on them, so that's where my mistake comes in. But I think the bolts to the U-joint came loose, and then this drive shaft was whipping around as soon as it let go, at like 1200 RPM. Whipping in there, and you can see it grabbed all of the hydraulic lines and things like that. The worst part, lines and all that can be replaced. Give me a moment to... I got a bird in the shop. I don't want to open the door right now to let the cold air in. I'll show you the worst part here in a second. Let me adjust my position. So here you're looking at the front of the transmission, and if you look way up there, you see some silver. That is an internal threaded hole for an oil cooler line, and it broke out the bottom of that hole. Not sure if I can zoom in and you can see it. There it is. So that hole's broke out. So I got to replace the front cover of this transmission. I'm going to see if I can take it out here in place. I don't know how successful I'll be. So yeah, we're gonna, I think, drop this drive shaft out, start taking out all of those, that kind of inner link drive shaft there, get all that cleaned out. I've got another 7400 about a half hour away or so that I'm going to go look at, take pictures of, so I can reference, what it all is supposed to look like, because it's a mess. I wouldn't even know hardly where to begin right now, and it's hard to understand the parts diagrams. So, yeah, just kind of gonna spend the day taking this apart, getting all this stuff out of here, and we'll go look at that other tractor and see what I need to order. Alright guys, so I got this all apart. I didn't really take step-by-step videos, but it was a mess. So I got that input shaft off, and interesting note, here's the input shaft. You can see it looks like we had one bolt come loose, and then the other bolt snapped, and the U-joint was free to come apart, which it did. Got all of these lines here that I'll have to figure out what they go to and replace. I took snippets for myself of other damaged electrical lines, everything damaged up in there, but I doubt you guys will care much about that. If this happens to anyone else, you're just going to have to evaluate that yourself as you pull it apart. So I took the drive shaft out, going to the front end here, and that was an interesting experience. So you need to take off those little like keepers there that hold the U-joint kind of in its slots, and then you can slide the drive shaft back, but that's when we ran into a big problem. So this is a spline shaft here going to, you can see it back there, that spline shaft, and it would not slide back, and I was pounding and hammering. I mean, I know I boogered up this piece, put a come along on it and pounded, couldn't get it to come back. Well, it turns out the splines in here, I don't know if you'll be able to tell there, I think you can, are worn, and so then it wouldn't line itself up as much as we tried with the unworn splines towards the back inside there, so it just wouldn't slide back. So it was kind of a miracle that we even got that off. And then once that was off, I went to town on this front cover. It's 1,000,000 bolts. You need an 8mm socket. I don't know how many there are. You can see how many. Something to note, these 6 here are longer, and the are longer than kind of the, I'll call them community bolts. And then the ones that hold the oil filter housing on and your clutch spring bracket are even longer. So it's 4 here. I forget how many there were here. Maybe 4 here that were really long, and then 6 medium ones, and then 1,000,000 small ones. In order to get this off, and I actually had this open too. Let me just walk around here. I had this open because there's another line that is damaged that I had to figure out where it goes, and of course it goes up here. It's that really green line right there. Luckily it tees off just under those hoses there, so I can get to that. But you know, some bolts around here, and the floorboard comes out. I had to take the other one of these off that goes to that there, so I could see that better. But once I got all of those bolts out, didn't really want to come apart. I took like a little wedge here and tapped into the gasket, and had to separate it from the top, and then everything broke loose and came off. So yeah, let's go back to the other piece. So since it was kind of stuck, I wanted to make sure that I had gotten all of the bolts out. Nothing else was holding it together. I actually looked up a piece of this piece online. And I marked off the bolts in the picture that I knew I had out, and I loosened the different kind of plugs and things to make sure, you know, nothing else needed to come out. But truly, it's just the small bolts that had to come out to get all of that off. And make sure you have an oil bucket handy. I mean, not much comes out, but some, enough to make a mess, and you can see it's still draining there off of that piece. So yeah, I'm off to go look at the other tractor today. and get some pictures and videos there to see what all I need to fix and start ordering parts, I guess. So like I said, something different today, but you know, not antique things, just something that has to be done. So talk to you all later.